The next meringue that we're going to prepare is an Italian meringue. General rule of thumb is double the quantity of sugar to egg whites for most meringues, and this is true for the Italian meringue. Again, weigh everything, be precise, make sure that you've got the exact measurements that are needed, because any difference in weights on an Italian or a Swiss meringue can really throw the mix out. So I've got my egg whites, I've cracked them into a bowl, and I've cleaned my mixing bowl with some vinegar just to make sure there's no grease or dirt, and add those in there. Always use a whisk for meringues and cream, because we want to add the air in, so a whisk acts by pulling in the air from the outside in. If you use a paddle, it just tends to, it's got one motion going on, and it will take you forever. Right, so I'm just going to put this onto the machine. And this time we don't want to start whipping the egg whites up until our sugar has dissolved. So for Italian meringue, we're making a stock syrup, and we're taking the temperature up to 118 degrees. At 118, that's when the sugar starts to slow down and become soft ball. So that's where, if you were to drop a little bit of the syrup into cold water, that it will form a soft ball. So sugar inverts at around 105 degrees Celsius, and that's when you start to make jams and light syrups. For this, we want it to be a nice firm syrup at 118, because that's going to stabilise our egg yolks. So we're dissolving the sugar this way, whereas opposed to with the French meringue, we dissolve the sugar straight in the whites. We're using the sugar thermometer for this process, and the sugar thermometer needs to be in the pan before you start. So again, I've cleaned this with vinegar before it's gone into our sugar solution, and I've put a little bit of water in there to dissolve the sugar straight off. What you don't want is sugar to be around the top of the pan out to the water, because that will crystallise the sugar. So making sure that the pan's nice and clean, your thermometer's nice and clean, and then your sugar's dissolved in some water. The more water you put in, the longer the time it's going to take for the sugar to reach the 118, the magic number. So less sugar is better, but then if it's not completely dissolved in the water, you're going to end up with hot spots and it will start to burn. So the sugar thermometer, you can see that we've got the line up the middle here. So we're going to be following the red line coming up to 118 degrees. This should take around 8 to 10 minutes. Okay, so our sugar syrup has started to invert now. We're around 105 degrees, so that's where the sugar's starting to invert to the syrup. You can see now at the moment we've got the steam coming off there. This is really important in this process to invert sugar, because you want all of that steam to evaporate, and then you'll find the sugar starts to slow down as it becomes a syrup and gets thicker. When it gets about 110 degrees, I'm going to put my egg whites on. Again, we're doing it 2/3 of the way, so to soft peak before we add our sugar syrup into there. If you over whisk your egg whites, again you're going to end up with a grainy meringue, and it will start to collapse as you put the hot syrup on. So it's super important when you're thinking about your Italian meringue, is to have your egg whites at the right consistency to add the syrup, which is quite tricky if you've got 2 jobs on the go and you've got to multitask. So being prepared is the best thing, so getting all your equipment and everything ready, and not having your sugar syrup on one side of the kitchen and your mix on the other, because we've got to remember it's super hot, 118 degrees will burn your skin. So it's just, I've got it on about 8 now. It's just going to evaporate off, it'll start to slow down, and then it probably takes 2-3 minutes to get from 110 to 118 on a medium to high heat. Okay, so we've got our egg whites up to a soft peak, and the temperature of the sugar is now at 118 degrees, so it's really slowed down. What you need to remember is to be really quick at this stage, because the sugar will keep cooking, because the heat's in the pan and the friction in the pan will keep generating that temperature to rise. So I'm just going to whisk it up, slowly add my sugar onto the whisking whites, so it becomes a thick, shiny meringue. Okay, so I've left this to whisk. So as I poured on the sugar syrup, I made sure that it was a slow, steady stream until I start to see some steam, so some heat transfer going into the egg whites, and then you can start to quicken that pace up. If you go too quickly though, you're going to end up scrambling the eggs. So nice, slow, steady stream, aiming towards the whisk initially and then coming out towards the side as the steam starts to rise, as the eggs start to heat up, and you can get a steady flow going in there. Be careful, like the sugar syrup's very hot, so if you go too quickly it might whisk out and hit you. So for health and safety, if you've got a guard, I would definitely use one. You're going to find a bit of wastage around the sides of the bowl, and this is natural. This happens because the whisk is turning as you're adding the sugar in. What you don't want though is the sugar to be crystallised on the sides, because you'll end up with a grainy meringue. Okay, so when it comes off, you can see this is very firm and stiff, and it's nice and satiny, so it's super shiny, super smooth, and almost marshmallow-like in texture. And this is good. This is what we're looking for when you're making an Italian meringue. This is safe for pregnant women and immunocompromised people to eat, because we've taken the temperature up to 118. We've heated the eggs up. They're now stable. So you can bake it still. So you can use an Italian meringue to bake, but it will end up firmer in texture once it's cool and ready to eat. So for applications for Italian meringue uses, we're going to top a pie today, so you can use it on a lemon meringue pie or something similar. I've got a key lime pie today, we'll talk about that in a minute. Also to stabilise mousses that aren't going to be cooked further, parfaits, frozen parfaits, it's very good because it's so stable. The moisture takes longer to go in, so they won't break down as easily as the French meringue. Get it off the whisk then. Want a bit of a bash, and we don't want too much wastage. Just use your clean hands just to scrape that down off the whisk there. Okay, so we're going to top our pie with our Italian meringue. I've made a key lime pie today. It's got a ginger crumb, and then I've used the egg yolks that were left over from the meringue to use in the base mix on the bottom. Super tasty and quite nice and easy to make. I've just used condensed milk, egg yolks and lime zest and juice. To fill our bags with our meringue, we need to fold down the top of the bag to get the mix in, not on the sides. So once you've practiced a bit, you can do this on your hands, but if you're just getting going, try using a jug to put your piping bag into, so then you've got two hands free to fill your bag. We're going to use a plain nozzle today. You can use these bags without a nozzle, but you find that the seam will make a mark in there, especially with a meringue because it's soft. You'll see that seam on intricate work. So if you're using it for a bigger process for piping out maybe big pavlovas, it's not much of a problem. But if you're going into piping the top of a meringue, that's the final garnish, if you like. So we want it to be perfect. So I'm going to use a straight-edged piping tube, and I always cut my piping bag with scissors, not a knife, because it's cutting from both sides. So just take that off there. Hold that over. And the trick to piping is not to overfill your bag. So I've got my nozzle in there. You don't want too much of the nozzle out of the bag. If it's over halfway, you'll find once you put pressure on when you're piping, that nozzle might pop out. So you just want just a little bit. I've got about a centimetre off of the tip of the nozzle there, and that'll hold tight when you're piping. Okay, so you can see the difference with this meringue. It's super shiny and really firm. It's not going to fall off my spoon. So I'm just going to spoon it into the bag, using my hand that's holding the bag to scrape the rest of the meringue off of the spatula. Okay, I'm not going to go too much, If you overfill, then you've got less control. So I'm just going to go kind of just under halfway up my bag, and that gives me the optimum amount of control on the bag. Once you do that, use 2 hands through, just to tighten it there, and then you can twist it down. If you find that the bag's a bit messy, you can use a Scotch scraper just to scrape down that mix so you're not wasting too much in the bag there. But that's now nice and firm and airtight. What you want to do is choose your hand that you write with. So I'm right-handed, so I'm going to use that to control the top of the bag, and I'm going to use my left hand just to hold it fast and to guide it as I go. So the trick is to keep the tension in the top of the bag when you're piping, and then controlling with the left and not squeezing with the left hand. Okay. So I've got my pie here. What you want to think about is plan. So before you start piping, understand and know how much. So I know that this bag will probably do 2/3 of the top of this pie. Always start from the outside and work to the middle, because you'll end up, you've got a straight edge to follow there, and then you should end up with a nice symmetrical pipe on the top there. So I'm just going to go around. I'm going to do almost like a scroll and come around and in. I'm going to hold the bag approximately 1 centimetre above, so you're allowing that time to be able to, for the meringue to come out of the bag before it touches your product. This way you won't end up with a squashed scroll. So I'm using a wave action as I come up and over. So I'm going onto the product, I'm coming up and over in that motion, so then I can overlap that once I go round into the second line. Moving the pie, not your body, can end up in all kinds of angles if you don't move the product. I've got a turntable today, I'm quite lucky, but if you haven't got a turntable, just put your pie onto a tray and manoeuvre it round. Okay, that's my first line done. I'm just going to make sure that my mix is down, I've got that pressure at the top of the bag again, and then I can go again. That's it, so 2/3 of the way through. I've only got about a couple of inches left of mix in my bag, so I'm going to refill my bag before I start the next line. Easiest way to do this when you've got your whole cup. Luckily this mix is nice and stiff, so it won't leak out the bag, but if you've got something like a cream or a gel or something, the best thing to do is to squeeze just above the nozzle on the bag and give it a twist, and that just blocks off that. I know that it's not going to run out because I've got a good meringue here, so I can leave it as it is. But we're going to do the same process again. So you want to fold this bag down, not try to just open the top and put some more mix in. So my hand on the left is clean because it's inside the bag. And same process again, just using that left hand to squeeze the mix off of the meringue. Not fill in halfway, more than halfway, so we've got that control. You can use a spatula or a Scotch meringue for that job. I find with the Italian meringue it's easier with a spatula. Now you're going to have a bit of an airlock here because we've got some mix still left in the bag. So if you just open your bag up on the top there and just give it a little squeeze, you can squeeze that airlock out. What will happen if you've got the air in the middle there, the piping bag is going to pop, and you're going to end up with either a splatter of meringue or a couple of holes on the top of your tart. So it's best to squeeze all that air out, let it down again, and this time, because I'm refilling the bag, I'm just going to squirt it out, and then I can feel that the tension's right in the bag and that there's no air pockets left in there. Okay, I'm just going to finish. that finished. As I came to the middle of the tart, we want a nice neat finish there because we're not going to cover that last bit. So overlap a lot more than you would if you say round the edge on that first initial pipe. We were doing them next to each other, where when you're coming towards the middle of the tart, you want to slightly overlap those just so they sit nicely and you get a little bit of lift and a bit of height off of there. And then always try and finish, and I know this is probably a pastry chef's way, but try and finish on odd numbers, so a 3, a 5 or a 7, because it aesthetically looks better on there. Then classically you would put Italian meringue through an oven or under a grill. We know that can be quite dodgy and that you might not have oven space and set at the right temperature, and it's very easy to leave something under a grill, and we put a lot of work into this now. We don't want to burn it or waste it. So blowtorches are the best piece of equipment to finish this now. I've seen a lot of people use blowtorches wrongly, so I'm just going to talk you through what you should be doing. This one's self-igniting, but if you haven't got one that self-ignites, make sure that when you're putting a lighter or a flame to it, that you're doing it here, not here. Obviously the flame's going to come out of in this direction, so if you're sat there with the lighter, you're going to end up with a singed thumb. So you're holding it underneath the element there, not in the middle of it. And you don't want to turn the gas on to full whack either. If it's on full whack, you're going to end up singeing your chef over on sauce. So making sure it's nice and low, and then you can turn it and adjust it to the temperature that you need. Never shake a blowtorch, so we see this action quite a lot. You're not transferring the heat into the right areas by doing that, but also you're adding air to the gas and it can flame up and turn yellow. You can lose your eyebrows. So best thing to do, nice and low, slow, and then a steady sweep across the top of the pie rather than wiggling around and risking your eyebrows. Okay, so I don't want to hold it too close because we're going to end up burning. We want a nice golden colour to finish, so I'm just going to use a sweeping motion just to glaze that up. And you can see there it gives that nice tonal effect on the top of the pie. Shelf life, Italian meringue is very stable, but it'll only last a couple of days tops. So you probably only want to prepare enough for your day and then do it fresh every day. Italian meringue can be stored in bags in the freezer for up to a week and can be used if you're using it instantly. So if you're in a service and you've got a lot of meringue left over, put it in the freezer and you can use it to pipe and send. I wouldn't have it to sit for a long time because it starts to break down because it's got the moisture in there from the freezer, from the cold temperature. But if you're using it and you need to use it up, then I'd definitely suggest freezing it, and then you can pipe a little bit of a garnish on a plate there. Or alternatively, you can use it in a mix for a mousse or to lift some cream. So instead of just whipped cream, you can lighten it up and sweeten it with the Italian meringue, and there's some other recipes for sponges and bases of mixes that use Italian meringue as well.